Tonight on Break at the Apex, for the most boring Japanese Grand Prix you've ever watched in your life, Graham, aka Christian Horner Jr., is going to talk for the full podcast about how great Max Verstappen is. We're going to hear from BT, who's got the prettiest girlfriend for the Japanese Grand Prix, and I'm going to cry my eyes out because Ferrari is still not a race-winning car. Let's get straight into it, gents. From a scale of 1 to 10, how boring was that race? Graham, I want to hear from you first.
Well, firstly, I'm gonna have to probably put the tone down when I do the edit, because that was flippin' loud.
Hey, I tried.
But pretty good. Well done. Well, the rate the race usually comes at the end of the episode. But what I am gonna say is, you asked the question, how boring was the race? And quite frankly, if people thought that China was boring, then this was next level. I won't even lie to you. I think the top 10 stayed the top 10. Did it not? I don't think there was any movement in the top 10.
The only swap was...
Can you lead the race for a bit?
The only swap was Hamilton and Hadjar that swapped. That the rest of the top 10 stayed the exact same.
Oh my goodness, that was absolutely dismal. Anyways, BT.
Nothing to say.
Not even who had the prettiest girlfriend this weekend. Like, you've made this a thing now, dude. Everybody on social media knows you look at the girlfriends, not the race cars. So you don't have anything to say about that this week.
It was so boring they didn't even show the girlfriends.
Thank you. I was about to say that. There's no girls that were shown. And it's exactly what Graham said. There was no action. I mean, yeah, dude. I was disappointed, actually. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah. But you know what? I'm wondering if it isn't. I wonder if it isn't like, because if you consider China, okay, don't get me wrong. Australia, the question has to go, if there wasn't race, would it have been exciting? Because usually Australia can be pretty good, right? But at the same time, if you look at China and Japan, both of them were resurfaced. I wonder if that doesn't have anything to do with that. I don't know. It's just maybe there would have been a bit of more degradation if it hadn't been the case, or whatever. So I don't know. Maybe moving on to Bahrain. Actually, was Bahrain not also resurfaced?
My goodness.
No, Bahrain was resurfaced a few years back, just after the pandemic. So that track has been resurfaced now for a while. So it's bedded in.
Yeah, but there's a lot of questions surrounding Bahrain. I guess we'll get into that, because the heat and stuff there will change some things with some of the cars, and degradation, because we know Ferrari degradation at Bahrain was always a thing, and Mercedes and the heat was always a thing. So that's going to be quite interesting, but we'll get to that later, I guess. But yeah, I mean, come on, that was honestly, I actually don't think I've watched. That was to me probably the most boring race I've ever watched. Genuine. Like, I know that sounds maybe a bit harsh, but it is really. I mean, the top 10 literally did not change. I mean, we said, okay, 1 point it changed by, but it's like we literally just watched one long train. We had one moment of Lando cutting grass and racing against Casper the Ghost, because I don't know what he was complaining about. Max was 5 years away from him.
But okay. Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that in a bit. I actually want to talk about just that. And it's something, believe it or not, that I actually realized from like playing the F1 game. And the thing is now, F1 cars, besides the fact that they're too heavy and it's nearly impossible to follow, which these new regulations should have fixed, the cars are too fast. I saw a post on social media where if you compare the 2022 cars to the 2025 cars, they are, again, more than 2 seconds a lap faster. 2 seconds. So in 2022, we had a relatively action-packed season where there was a lot of overtaking, a lot of things happening. But in order for the cars to become fast, basically, it's more and more downforce, even though it's underneath the car now. That creates dirty air the cars cannot follow. So there's a whole problem with Formula One now where, yes, it's the pinnacle of motorsport, and yes, it is supposed to be the fastest cars in the world, but it shouldn't come at what's the word I'm looking for? Bad racing. It shouldn't be the cause for bad racing. And my opinion is the car should be made slower. We should go back to something like the cars were back in 2004, 2005, where there was minimal dirty air There was other things that you had to worry about to try and pass. They didn't need DRS or all this fancy electronic stuff to get past another car. It was down to skill. And I actually want to hear from your guys' opinion. What would you like to change right now, or what is your opinion on why the sport has become so boring?
No dancing girls. That's what BT was going to say.
Oh
But it
boy.
is no. But it is no. Hang on. But hang on. Didn't Vettel and Alonso both say that they must bring back the girls? Remember this? The paddock girls, the girls that used to dance in the. I'm serious. No, but
No.
why you?
They
I'm
were
serious.
wild.
Vettel.
They were they were actually wild to say that. I'm not gonna lie
They
to you.
were. They were. But I was expecting BT to say that now. No, I don't care. I'm a married man. I don't care. I was just saying that I think BT's gonna. No.
All right, but back
BT.
on topic.
What would you like to? What would you like to change?
Dirk, to be honest with you, yet again, it's the way forward of the sport now. Because we were complaining about the cars were too big. Long time ago, the cars were smaller. I think the cars were less heavier. Now they are and they're bigger. It's I don't know, dude. It's just the way forward. I think Formula One now is at the point where they are. I'm not gonna say arrogant enough, but I think they have the market. A lot of people know about F1 now than ever before because of Netflix. So they're not gonna change a formula that's working in their eyes. We can complain as much as we want. Um, but unfortunately, this is the product we're getting at this point. I mean, it's not a bad product. It's just that this season started off very slow. And if you actually think about it, we usually never start with China and Japan anyway, if I'm not mistaken. So this roster or this calendar is quite different. Japan is usually in September, if I'm not mistaken. Around about
It
September,
used
around
to be,
about
yeah.
October.
Yeah, around
That's
about there.
It
so
used to.
now Japan has moved forward. So obviously our perception about the season is going to change because by the end of the season, by the end of September, October, everything is done. Constructions maybe is decided. The title is decided. But now the race, the Japanese race, is more at the start of the season. So now we're like, hey, so what's happening? Are we? Is this gonna be the season we're gonna get? Or maybe the actual season is going to start in Bahrain, because don't forget about it, we all change the regulations next year anyway, and we're more excited for that. But for us now to think that Formula One will change like certain parts of the car, and take away the DRS or take away the charging thing, if when a driver can charge their battery and stuff like that, they're not going to do that. They're moving forward. So I like the way things are. The sport has more exposure now. The sport has broadened up, and there's no point of us going backwards in terms of having the V10s again. I know there was rumors about that, but I don't think that will really happen because people are more woke these days, and we don't want Formula One facing situations where you get people and say Formula One cars are polluting the air. We are gonna get that if the V10s come back. So it's just the way it is. That's my
Not
take
to
on it.
mention, the street races and the noise pollution that
Yeah,
people are going to complain
yeah,
about. Look,
yeah.
I'm gonna add a couple of things to what BT said. Now, first of all, we talk about the weight of the cars. It's going to get heavier because if you consider the batteries that are coming, apparently those batteries are going to be ginormous. So I can only imagine that the cars are going to get heavier. Even I haven't done any research on that, so someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty certain I've heard that it's going to be that way. And I also want to reiterate the thing about Japan, where I think BT is quite correct in that um, Japan used to be in September, and in September it used to be monsoon season, where every time we were in Japan, it would rain cats and dogs, which would make it a more exciting race. In this case, it didn't, and the race was pretty dull. Um, I also do think that we're at that point of the regulations now where it's gone a year too long, in the sense
Hmm.
that um, now everybody is caught up and most people have found the cap of their car and nobody can really go much further than where they are now. and everybody is now cared about 2026. They're not really cared about now, because why do they need to care about now? So I do think that, look, I mean, we had this conversation the other day, Dirk, you and I. To be honest, still actually, I'll admit this. I haven't listened to your last voice note yet because I haven't had a chance to, but I'll go back and listen to it still. But I will say, these things are so artificial to me. It just it means nothing to me. Genuinely, I couldn't care less about the engines. I couldn't care less about the sound. I couldn't care less about any of that nonsense. All I care about is the racing. And one thing I would like to point out is that I do think, as boring as it is, and we can complain about it being boring, and I do sometimes complain about it being boring when it's a boring race. But I think what people need to understand, and I guess a lot of DTS fans, and I don't mean that in a derogatory term, if you're a DTS fan, you're a DTS fan. I'm not saying that you're a blinded fan or whatever. I'm just saying, if you're a DTS fan, you probably come from a very new era of fans who doesn't know what F1 is like over the period of time, right? And over the period of time, we've never had exciting F1 seasons, season after season after season. We've had boring races every single year. We've had seasons that were just really, really boring because it was dominant from race one to the end. You know, we've had that with Schumacher. We've had that with the Lewis era. We had that with the Max era. It is very, very common that this happens. So for us to now start saying, well, the sport needs to now change now because it's super boring, it's like, it was always like that, really. It was always like that. You had, every now and again, you had these crazy seasons, but in between, it was like, you know, pretty normal. It was like not crazy. You had a couple good races, a couple boring races. So yeah, quite honestly, I don't mind. I think it's been a slow start, but it's not going to stop me from waking up early to watch the next couple of races. It's not going to stop me from staying up late to watch the late races. I'm still going to watch them. I'm still going to put my everything into the sport because I love it, and that's just it for me.
All right, I think you guys are trying to you're getting the wrong opinion from me. I understand we went into the engine formula now and the weight of the cars. I personally think the cars are way too heavy. They can still be very green, very environmentally friendly without weighing close to a ton. They are starting to get into the weight area of the prototype cars that race in endurance racing, that have bigger batteries, they have bigger bodies, they have got actually more aero, and these cars are starting to get lighter than single-seater race cars. That to me is just it's scary. But besides that, the thing that I'm trying to get to is, besides the engine formula, and I know you guys don't care about it as much as fans like me that want that rawness of a sport. Here's the thing that I'm getting to. We are going to traditional racing tracks, not these crappy constructed city street circuits that well, not everybody, but that most people hate. The city street circuits are built for these generation of cars so that they can overtake well. Put all the generation cars on those tracks and the racing will not be as good because the newer tracks that they are building are being built so that these cars can race well. But your traditional racing circuits like Suzuka, a Spa, a Monza is literally nicknamed the Temple of Speed, and they can't overtake because they've got tiny, tiny rear wings. Apologies for that. In any case, so the thing that I'm trying to get to is these cars, besides the fact that they are just way too fast and way too heavy in the same sense, it's creating a sense of all these traditional tracks that people love and the places where you would expect racing to be good, it's getting dull. And the places where people don't really want them to race, that's the only place where it's exciting. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, that's a problem. Because what is the point of having racing circuits then? Why don't we just do 24 rounds in Las Vegas? Why don't we just do, I don't know, 12 of Baku and then Vegas? Because these cars are not suiting traditional racing circuits. And that what that takes away is for them to actually go to other countries that have traditional racing circuits that don't want to build a city street circuit. Like, for instance, us. South Africa said, no, we are not building a city street circuit. You can choose Cape Town, Kalani, or Kyalami and Gauteng. That's it. And there's other countries that feel the same as us. But then we'll never see F1 because they're not suited to the tracks. The racing is boring. So, yes, you have the DTS excitement, all these new fans. Oh, F1 is awesome. But they look at the actual product and it's a ball fest. So you're advertising something that doesn't have the same product. That's where the problem's going to come in.
I don't know. I think it will. I think we will still see some good racing this year. I think we'll still. I mean, I can't imagine Spa being boring. I mean, even last year it wasn't boring. It was pretty good. I what I think as well is you have a lot of you have a lot of tracks that sometimes produce a boring race, and then sometimes the race is good. I'm trying to think Bahrain. I think Bahrain, we've had some really, really solid races, but I think we've also had some boring races in Bahrain. So, and it's been year by year by year. It's not a case of it's become boring. It was one year that it was boring, and then it was excited again the next year. So, yeah, I think it just depends on the pecking order. It depends on how the cars are developed. It depends on how things are going with the cars. Um, and yeah, I just think that things will get better this year. As soon as upgrades start coming, we'll start seeing things change. Um, and I mean, let's be honest. I thought upgrades were coming in Japan, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure I
Mm,
read that somewhere, but apparently it didn't happen, and it's only
yeah.
happening in race 5. So in that case, I'm still interested and intrigued to see what Red Bull can do, because they've got to find a way to find they've won now, but they still have to find a way to get that car in the right place, because it's clearly not in the right place still. I mean, so I mean, yeah. But any case, yeah.
Yeah.
Let's move
Okay.
on.
All right. Now let's talk about the infamous incident that you mentioned earlier, Graham. The whole Norris trying to pass Max in the pit lane scenario. Now I know I am one that in the past would very quickly be on the blame Max hype train, but I've grown up. I am honestly like,
Oh,
obviously,
I'm so glad. That's
the
nice.
look in any sport today, whether you watch football slash soccer, whether you watch rugby, whether you watch motorsport, the competing sportsmen against each other will always complain to try and gain an advantage. But I am sorry. That was the only exciting thing about this whole race to me was after Lando's team radio, I burst out in laughter because I was like, dude, well, where else is Max supposed to go? He crosses the white line, it's an instant penalty. He doesn't cross the line, you need to go to the grass. Which one do you think Max is going to choose? Max didn't even like
Yeah.
slightly turn the wheel to Lando's side, but there has to be complaining. But also, in defense of Lando, Max also said he released his pit lane speed limiter too fast. That's how
But
how crazy it gets when
yeah.
these guys just like try to gain an advantage some way or the other. Because I'm sure Max knew that he still didn't have the fastest cars, and if something were to go wrong, the McLarens were going to get him. So he tried to get an advantage. But
Mm.
like I'm just I'm trying to figure out where did Lando expect Max to go? BT, your opinion on this because that to me was actually comedy.
First of all, if Nas thinks Max is gonna just give him some room in that circumstance, then he's very delusional. let's just
He should
let's
just
just
stop
put it that
racing
way.
now.
Yeah, dude. Because it sounded like that. It sounded like he expected Max to be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Here's some space for you, so you can go past me." No, Max is not gonna do that. And I'm gonna go slightly off topic now, and I'm gonna talk about Norris. Norris, it is the third race, and I am seeing a bit of you panicking. That's what's
Mm,
happening to you now.
I'm seeing it.
You spoke a lot last season. You said this year is going to be your year. You won Australia. We're happy for you. You didn't win China, but you still collected points. Now you made the biggest threat. You let the biggest threat actually win a race because of your lack of wanting to talk to the team in terms of strategy, uh, what you should do, letting the team put you while Max is putting. I didn't understand that strategy first of all. When you and Max are putting at the same time, you clearly have the fastest car.
Yeah.
So whatever strategy
They should
you
have.
do take, you can do an overcut or undercut. You still have the fastest car.
Yeah.
So for that, in that circumstance, to answer your question, that was he was panicking. He thought that he could play the game in terms of gain advantage, say something about Max, Stewart's, and hoping the Stewards will go look into that. And actually, Max gets a penalty. And Max didn't get a penalty. So that was his last resort of a certain move because after that, he couldn't catch Max, unfortunately. That's all. Like I'm really tired of McLaren already. It's the flipping third race, and I'm already tired of they can't make decisions correctly. First of all, I know what they're doing. They have the fastest car, but they're trying to. It's like they're acting a rom com. That's gonna have a
Can I
Mm.
ask?
happy ending. They're gonna have a,
Can I ask
they're
you
gonna
something?
have a happy ending. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Can we ask you something?
Yes,
Do you
I'm tired of that team, bro.
do you do you do you guys get the impression that McLaren is not going to let Piastri win?
I
What?
want to I
Think
want to answer both
just think
yes
about it.
and no. It's a very
Just
the thing is,
so
with all due
okay.
respect,
Let me just say this quickly. They said, hold on. They said Zach said he's going to let them race. Two
He's not.
chances now.
He's
Two
not doing
times
that.
now. Two times now.
And Graham has balloons. Happy birthday.
Two times now. Two times now. Piastri was behind Lando and quicker, and they wouldn't let Piastri through to try and go after Max.
Yes.
Why? Why? What do
Good
they have to
question.
lose?
Why?
What do they have to
Yes.
lose? And then we talk, and then let's go to the pits as well, right? Let's go to the pit stops. I said this I said this on TikTok earlier. I said we need to get Red Bull versus Mercedes back because McLaren is no fun. They are so boring.
yeah,
Bro.
Whatever,
Yes.
whatever happened, dude. Whatever
They're so
happened to do the
they, like they're such a conservative team, man.
conservative, dude? So conservative. Like whatever happened to do the opposite he does?
Yes.
Like just try something. Okay, Max is pitting. Cool, Lando, stay out for another lap and push as hard as you can to get the best in lap that you can do,
yeah,
and then come in, get a change and see. Just try. Just try. You're behind. You've got nothing to lose. You anyways behind. What do you have to lose, right?
yeah.
So just try something. That two against one, two against bro. Like I don't want to be a fanboy, but I'm telling you, if two against one, if it was two Red Bulls against one McLaren, they would have eaten that McLaren for breakfast, bro.
Yes,
They would have even
absolutely.
Mercedes. If it was two Mercedes versus a McLaren, Mercedes would have eaten that car alive.
Bro, even
One versus two, and they couldn't. Sorry,
no, keep going.
go Dirk.
No, I wanted to say even a team that hasn't had played the best two against one strategies, even Ferrari would have made that work. And the thing for me is about
Yeah.
McLaren and
Well,
Alonso he said such a brilliant thing in the press. He said right now Max 2025 is reminding him of Alonso 2012, where Alonso was the single Ferrari fighting against Mark Webber and Sebastian Vettel. And the thing about this is for me is besides the fact that McLaren they've got no I want to say they've got it feels to me like they've got no will to win. They're just going with the flow and they want things to play it out for themselves. Bro, we don't know after the eighth race when these flexible wings when they go away if McLaren are still going to be the fastest. This is their time where they need to gain the most points as possible. And let's look at it this way.
Yes.
McLaren is by such an extent the fastest cars. These first three races, if you look at it realistically, McLaren should have won all three of them. There shouldn't have been another way
100%,
about it. And they haven't. They've won two of
100%.
them, but in the first one where Lando won, Piastri, yes, it was a mistake from Oscar, which is understandable, but still the other car came 10th. The second race, Piastri wins, and Lando nearly loses his second place to Russell because, with all due respect, I felt that was negligent team management. They should have told Lando a lot sooner, hey, there's problems with your brakes. You need to slow it down. And they didn't. And now, third race, you allow, and yes, I understand it's Verstappen, but again, it comes back to the point it's two against one. How did McLaren not win this race? How? How did they not at least
I'm
1-3
starting
it?
to think is yeah. I also think that let's flip the coin. Let's side with McLaren now for a second, right? Let's say okay, they've got the fastest car. They in their mind, in the long term, it's fine. Picking up a 2 and 3 is okay because they know that let's just say that's the argument, right? What about the drivers' championship? Because to
Mhm,
me, it's almost like they're only caring about the constructors, but nobody
mhm.
cares. Nobody's going to know in 10 years' time. Nobody's going to remember that McLaren won the constructors.
Yep,
They
that's
care
true.
about the driver. Everybody cares about the driver's constructors. So McLaren needs to understand, like, the drivers constructors is where it is. That's what you need to win for people to actually remember that McLaren was absolute fire in 2025 because Lando won or Piastri won. That's what they're supposed to be looking into. But it's almost like they don't care too much about the drivers. They only care about the constructors because they're okay to say to the drivers, you know what, it's fine. Let's just take a 2 or 3. It's okay. It's good points for us. Because look, like, let's be honest, in the long run, it is for the team. That's a perfect strategy for the team. That's good points. Leave it at that. It's just not good for the drivers.
Yeah.
So it's to me, I think that the McLaren really need to start taking a bit of risks. Like it's just it's not going to work out. I mean, they proved last year that you can turn things around like that. They
Yeah.
proved it. So what is
Yeah.
stopping Red Bull or Mercedes in doing the same to them this year? They need to get
Exactly.
every little thing that they can get right now. So I mean, it's and yeah, I mean, if we're going to talk about the Norris incidents with Max, from our point, I've got nothing more to add. I mean, it's there was literally half a car length between them. I don't
Yeah.
know
Oh,
what Norris saw. And if you look at Max's onboard, he did jolt a bit to the right, but I think that was him fighting the car. It wasn't him turning because he immediately went like this
Yeah.
after that, right? So I mean, it's a bit of a, but okay, Martin and I had a live on Saturday, and no, when did we
Yeah, it was Saturday with
talk?
qualifying.
Yeah, but I can't remember when we spoke about. Yeah, I think it might have been before this incident actually. But we were actually saying, and I think this is a great idea. Formula One should actually stop this whining by implementing penalties, whereby if you snitch on somebody in the race and they found guilty, they get a penalty. But if they're not found guilty, you get the penalty for snitching.
you get a penalty.
I really think they should do that. And that's what Martin and I were talking. That's what Martin and I were talking about, which, to be fair, was mostly his idea. But I have thought of something similar before. And I was also, one of my thoughts was that we've got to have the team principals also need to be the teams need to be penalized when the team principals snitch as well, because they do it a
Yes.
lot all the time.
Yeah.
Yes. No.
But what Norris done? What Norris done was he's trying to pull a rabbit out of a hat.
Yeah, 100%.
That's what he was
100%. By
trying
the
to
way,
do, and he took
100%.
advantage of the situation. That's all.
Yeah, 100%. Dirk, I just want to inform you that you have a slight delay. So sometimes when you want to start talking, we don't know. So
Okay.
sorry if it sounds like we're cutting you off every time, but there's a slight delay. So
No problem.
we will, if yeah, okay.
Okay.
Let's move on from
Yeah.
this. To be
Okay.
honest, as somebody who does support McLaren as well, it does frustrate me a lot to watch it, and it just makes me very, very annoyed. So like, yeah, it's just one of those things. Anyways,
Yeah,
let's move on.
I mean, from myself as well. I mean, I am a Ferrari fan in and out, and I don't think I'll ever change. But my second favorite team, like yours, Graham, is Red Bull and McLaren. My second favorite team is McLaren as well. But I can't back them because they are being, and with all due respect, they're being stupid. There's no other way to put it. And I'm saying it like Jimmy Clarkson said it, stupid. Because you are throwing away a championship. Yes, there's more money with the Constructors' Championship, but nobody cares. Nobody cares. And Mercedes, Red Bull, or Ferrari, any one of these three teams can turn it around, like you said, Graham, and then McLaren are screwed because they didn't bank when they should have banked. But in any case, what I actually want to move on to, and this is a controversial question, and I know you guys know what my point of view is about this, but I mentioned it last year as well. And I still don't believe with the fastest car, even when the team is prioritizing him over Piastri, that Lando Norris will win the world championship because he doesn't have world championship winning mentality. And this weekend's race incident was the perfect example. He panicked because he knew he couldn't beat Max. He knew he couldn't beat Max. One-on-one, I don't think it's a question of Lando doubting himself. I think I don't actually know how to explain it, but it's as if when Max is in front of Lando, everything just goes wrong in Lando's head, in Lando's mind. He makes silly mistakes, he overdrives, or he tries grabbing at straws that aren't there. And my personal opinion is, if Piastri stays consistent, and the same things happen that happened last season, where Max and Lando, or even if it's with another car that catches up, and Lando constantly battles with somebody and he makes silly mistakes, at the end of the day, Piastri is going to be the McLaren that finishes based on the drivers. And I think the fact that Piastri is closer to Lando than ever before, and these first 3 races have shown it, I think there's a very big chance that Piastri will win this year's World Championship if that McLaren stays the fastest car.
Yeah, 100%. I'll be honest. I agree and disagree. I want to stay away from. I mean, that's your opinion. My opinion is I want to stay away from saying this person is not championship worthy and this person not championship, because to be quite honest with you, I'm looking at one of the most hated drivers at this point, and I'm thinking, man, this guy's actually pretty special. Like, we look at George Russell. Like, honestly, he's always there, and that is the right place to be as a driver. And as much as I don't like him, you've got to actually think, like, my goodness, he's got something special, and he can be a world champion if he continues like this. He's got an extremely high racing IQ, and he's an extremely quick driver, and he's always there to pick up the pieces. So you know, when I said this about George, and I'm now looking at George thinking, oh my goodness, okay, this is a very different George here. I don't think that Lando isn't worthy of a championship, and I don't think that he doesn't have the mentality. I just think that he has he has, maybe when it's Max, he's just got this, and this is normal because people were scared of Schumacher. And Max he's got that aura. People are just scared of him. You know who's the only person on the grid who's not scared of Max? Is Charles Leclerc. He's the only person that's not scared. He's the only person.
I would vouch for Lewis as well. I don't think Lewis is scared of Max. If Lewis is in the same car, Lewis is not.
Yeah, no. Wait. Leave Lewis. We know Lewis not scared of him. We're talking about the newer generation now.
Yeah,
I think he is.
2021,
who jumped? 2021, who jumped? Listen to me.
No
2021,
ways,
who jumped?
No ways.
Listen to me. 21, Abu Dhabi, who jumped out of the way for who?
But does that mean that he's wait? But does that mean that Lewis is scared of Max? Did we watch the whole season, guys?
What? Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that Lewis would go to a point of really just avoiding anything that whenever he sees Max, he tries to avoid. Whereas Leclerc will race him and give him space at the same time. Whereas Lewis always tried to avoid Max at all costs. Always tried to avoid Max. Always. I'm not saying that he's scared of Max in that sense of, oh, I'm scared of Max. I don't think any driver is scared of Max in that sense. I'm saying scared of him is as in, if I see Max in my mirror, I'm done for. You already made that you've already got that in your mind. Oh shit, that's Max. Whereas like Leclerc, for example, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'll be happy to put Lewis aside and say, look, okay, maybe with Lewis I'm going a bit far. Let's leave Lewis. I agree. Let's leave Lewis. Maybe I'm going too far. Maybe Lewis isn't too scared of him. But if you consider the rest of the field, yeah,
I thought your thinking was the newer generation, the guys who haven't won championships yet. You understand? Yeah. So a guy like Lewis, who has done it 7 times, put Lewis in a car. Put Lewis in a McLaren now. Are you telling me Lewis is going to be scared of a stop? Thank you. We're done. Okay.
Thank you. Carry on. All right, guys. Let's get into the final few topics. And before we get into the Sonoda Lawson talk, I actually just want to talk about one of the rookies quickly, and it's someone who impressed me so much, and that is Isaac Hadjar. To go from where he was at the start of oh, Graham, if you know how that came through on my side, I was just never mind.
How did it come through? I call him Ballsack Hadjar now. It's Ballsack Hadjar.
It sounded like on
my side, it sounded like you moaned and just went Hadjar, and that's why I just started laughing.
I'm liking that.
But
I'm gonna have to edit that out, but I love that kid. That kid is solid, man. I'm liking that kid so
Oh
much.
yeah,
But I call
yeah.
him Ballsack Isaac now because he put in his quali lap with his ball squeeze. He actually, if he spoke, he would have probably sounded like Dirk. You know that? What are you talking about? That thing he probably would have been like, you know what I mean? Like, okay. Anyways, so carry on, Dirk. You can talk about Ballsack as your.
I really feel sometimes like I want to throw you with a pitchfork. I love you 2 bits, but I really want to
You
throw
have to
you with
throw a
the
pitchfork
pitchfork.
at.
I want
You're
to
gonna
throw
have
a
to throw a
pitchfork at you.
pitchfork at me because I'm a bit too heavy for you at this point.
Oh, please,
Not really.
please. In any case, getting to the topic, I am so impressed with Hajar right now, and of all the rookies right now, it's between Hajar and Behrman who's impressing me the most. Antonelli for me is not that that thing right now because he is in a fast car. He is in a front running car. But Hajar and Ollie
Mm-hmm.
Behrman in cars that are sometimes midfield and at some tracks they're like at the back, they are really showing their stuff. And specifically Isaac Hajar, he raced so well against Lewis. He kept it clean against Lewis. He kept Lewis behind for, what was it, 15, 16 laps. He drove brilliantly. And I just think that kid is something special for the future. If he keeps going at this trend, he's got a very good and long future in Formula One, if you ask me.
And Behrman absolutely dominating Ocon.
I said it. I
Yeah,
mentioned it. I
yeah,
said this. I said this. I said this.
yep.
All
Okay,
right.
Dirk. It's okay.
Yeah.
Calm down.
No,
We'll give it to you.
no. You guys are very quickly to point out when I say something controversial and it doesn't work out. I said this one and I'm going to stick to it. And I'm still say Bortoleto is also going to
No,
beat Hulkenberg. Watch.
no, no.
No.
We just didn't understand the Sergeant Logan thing. That Logan saw whatever his name
That's the
is.
only. It's
Like
the
I
only
didn't
thing.
understand that.
Yeah.
I didn't
And now
understand
all
that.
of a sudden,
I didn't.
we always have a go at him when he disagrees. But it was only the Logan thing.
Yeah.
It's just that
No,
he
no, no,
kept
no,
on
no.
saying it so
No.
many times that.
No. That is bull. It has not just been the Logan thing. The Logan is the only thing you guys remembered because we've gotten to the weekly part of the episode where Logan gets brought up to make me feel like an idiot. That's the only one you guys remember. I have been challenged many times
It's
when
not.
I've said things like this. So, let's get
It's
into the
not.
final.
It's not bull. It's not bull. It's racing bull. Just so that you know.
Oh,
Anyways, let's move on.
for God's sakes. Okay, in any case. All right, let's talk about Sonoda and Lawson. All right, guys, honestly, Yuki didn't look bad in the Red Bull, but it's not close to what Red Bull need right now. He looks better than Lawson, but there's still a lot of work that needs to be done. And I think Yuki has laid enough down now so that he can actually at least try and go for points when we get to Bahrain. He wasn't far off Max in practice. Qualifying was clearly the problem, and it was very hard to overtake. But I was reasonably impressed with Sonoda this weekend. And honestly, Lawson, it's as if that kid has lost all confidence. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it was just, again, a team swap and it's a crazy change or whatever. But if Lawson doesn't perform in the next 2 Grand Prix, which is Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, if I'm not mistaken, there is genuine concern about Lawson. And honestly, I hope Yuki proves Red Bull wrong. So I'm holding hands for Yuki. BT, what did you find of the whole Lawson Sonoda saga?
Bro,
Wait, hang on. You hope he proves them right because
No,
they made the call.
No. Red Bull said, especially if I'm wrong, actually, at least, I think, Max, but to be a and at least with him, I want him to do that. I want him to do that. Do I think it's going to happen? I'm doubtful, but I hope so because I love Yuki, and Yuki is a lot more talented than people give him credit.
Okay, BT, I'll let you go, and then I'll.
no, it seems like you want to say
Yeah.
something. Go ahead. I'll talk after
No,
you.
I'm just trying to
You
figure out
thinking?
when did they say that Yuki was not good enough? Because I can't ever recall. In fact, I've been seeing the complete opposite to that.
Yeah, now
What did
because
you
they're
see?
trying to cover themselves. obviously now, because now they didn't have a choice but to put Yuki in the car. So they have to talk good about him. Otherwise, how's that going to look for the team? When Yuki started to be rumored
I
for
don't
the
think
Red Bull
they've.
seats, and this is end 2021, start of 2022. Helmut Marko, obviously, because he's a glorified egotistical maniac. Helmut Marko said from the start, Sonoda will never ever race in a Red Bull car because he is not good enough. He is not that talented compared to Max. And wherever Christian Horner went, when that statement was brought to him, he defended Helmut Marko, which means he agrees with it. And now Yuki's got the opportunity to prove them both wrong, the two big heads at Red Bull. And I so badly want him to do that.
I'm not gonna lie. I've never seen them say that about. I've never. But okay, fine. Look, maybe you're right. But I've never seen them talk about Yuki like that. I know that they've had their thoughts about it, but I don't think I've ever seen them say something that hectic. But I mean, okay, that's fine. Anyways, BTs, have your say, and then I'll give you my thoughts on these two because, boy, do I have some things to say. Anyways, go for it.
Don't take it personally, eh? It's not a Daniel Ricciardo situation. Anyway, look, I'm also impressed with Tsunoda. He looked good in the uniform. He looked good throughout the weekend.
I thought you were looking for the
Um,
girls, not Yuki.
yeah, Yuki, you're kind of cute, but anyway, um,
The
yeah, it's something that it had to happen at some point, you know, and I can see that he settled into the car much better than Lawson. I can
mm,
say that. So it's give him a few races, and see what happens. What I heard on my side is that actually Adrian Newey was not quite a fan of Sonoda, who kind of blocked it a bit. That's what I heard, and I've seen from my sources. But Graham, go ahead. I can't wait to hear what you're gonna say.
It's not that bad. I just first of all want everybody that was so adamant, like super, super, super adamant, like those that commented and said that Yuki should have been in that seat because he is so much better and that he will do 100% better than Lawson. I just hope that they were watching that race because I 100% don't think that people realize Lawson is not a bad racer, and he's because of that car, he's shot. He's shot. His entire confidence is in its chops, and you could see it in the beginning of the weekend. You could see his demeanor in the press conference. You could see the photos that they took of the team. The man was not smiling. He does not look happy, and that's understandable. But he needs to grow up. He needs to grow up
Yes,
now because he
yes,
needs to
yes,
not
yes.
he needs to realize that he is still an F1. He's still got something to fight for. He's still got a future if he can put himself together and not let a three-time racer beat him. He's raced 10 races at least, and Hadjar has raced 3, but he's letting Hadjar beat him very
mm,
convincingly, like in super, super convincingly. He can't let that happen. He needs to pull himself together and he needs to get back into it, guns blazing, and he needs to pull off what he did when he took over from Daniel, when Daniel broke his hand, when he was beating Yuki every race that he came in, those 5 races.
yeah,
That's the Lawson I want to see because that was the Lawson that was beating Yuki. He was consistent. He was confident. He had every right in that Red Bull seat the way he drove in those couple races.
yeah,
But this last year that he took over from Daniel, he didn't really do much, and so far this year he's not really done much. So he needs to sort of grow up. As for Yuki, I have to say, he definitely did do better because he made it into Q2 at least. Didn't make it to Q3 and still didn't get points, but that's fine. The point is he did not crash the car. I was thinking he was going to crash the car. I was thinking on Saturday, I thought, you know what? If he sees that Max is on pole, he's going to think that he can get more out of this car and he's going to try and push it too hard in the race and he's going to force an accident, but
yeah,
he didn't. So it clearly shows that he does know the limit of the car and all they need to do is just tweak it a little bit. As far as I understand, he changed the setup. Now, I know every driver that has done badly in this Red Bull has an excuse every time it doesn't work out, but I believe this one. They changed the setup because Yuki does have experience. He knows what he wants.
yes,
Unlike a lot of the other drivers, he's got the experience to know what he wants. So they changed his setup. and it made the car maybe a little bit more stable, but just a little bit slower. But that's perfect because now they can work back a little bit. Now they can track back a little bit, settings, tweak it one by one, until he's got
Yes.
that perfect balance. So I, in one breath, want to say I hope all of you people that were saying that Yuki will be far better than Liam, I hope they watched because he didn't. But I'm also on that same breath saying Yuki is going to do better if you just give him time now. And I know we could have said the same about Liam, but the difference is Yuki has the experience to change that car a little bit more in the way that he wants because he knows now what he wants. And Lawson still needs to learn a lot of those things. So that's just my take on it. So with that fight, I think it's done and dusted. I think Yuki needs to stay there and Lawson needs to get himself together, be an adult about things and start getting himself back. If he wants to see himself in a big car again, he needs to pull himself together and show the world that he's not going to let it put him down. He's going to get back and he's going to fight. He needs to do that now, right now, from the next race.
Yeah, basically
Anyhow.
from this point onwards of this season, Lawson needs to gather himself back up and get back to the Lawson that replaced Ricardo. He needs to be that fast. He needs to be sticking it to Hajar every race. And I feel Yuki should do at least, I would say, an Alex Albon level performance come the end of the season where he's consistently scoring points. And if there is a case where Max needs backup, that he is close enough to be that backup. That for me is where it needs to go. But gents,
100%.
with that being said, there's not really anything else to talk about in this race. Let's go to probably the hardest part of this podcast, your moment of the weekend. BT, what was your moment
That's not
of the
hard for
weekend?
me. That's not hard for me.
Okay, Graham, calm down.
What is your
Calm down.
moment for the weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah, we asked you, BT.
Oh, mine.
Yeah.
He said BT. What is your? I'm just saying it's not hard for me, but he said BT. What is yours? Are you getting old now that you can't hear?
No,
Because I know you.
this race,
I can see those gray hairs on your. I can see it in your beard. I can see it on your hair.
like
High definition,
the
baby.
race, the race was so boring that I just passed on the question to you. And I didn't want to even answer the question. But anyway,
Answer it. Come.
moment of the weekend.
Yuki Tsunoda changing his outfit.
Probably Lewis Hamilton overtaking Arja was a nice touch, you know. Ferraris are not competitive this weekend.
It was the only overtake the whole race. So
Yeah, so that was a nice touch from Hamilton. It shows that he's getting better with the car, he's getting used to the Ferrari, so yeah, but that team, yeah. I'm so glad we didn't talk about them today. But yeah, that was the moment of the weekend. Yeah.
Mine's a little bit left field. Because it was a funny moment. It's maybe not something that will make you guys smile too much, but my favorite moment was when Lewis said, "Guys, can you just tell me where I'm slow?" And they said, "Turn 5, turn 10, turn 11." They should have just said, "Lewis, you are just slow, mate." Like just.
Oh, jeez.
They should have just said, "Lewis, everywhere, mate, everywhere. You are just slow. Pick it up, please." Just.
Yeah, well,
It's like, wow,
I think they mentioned, what was it, 5 corners, and the track only has like 17. And I'm like, geez, guys, way to knock a man down. Well, way to kick a man when he's already down. Jeez. But actually, BT, to reiterate what you said, Hamilton every weekend is a bit better. And even though it's not a full Grand Prix, he still equaled Vettel's record of winning in a Ferrari with his second race. So I'm just going to put that into the universe. Now, I need to give I need to give my moment of the weekend. I actually almost forgot. My moment of the weekend, actually, for me, and it's not because it's something bad. It's
Nobody
because
would
I'm
care.
no. Oh, shut up, Graham. And it's because I am happy that the man's okay. Is Jack Doohan's crash in free practice 2? That was a heavy shunt, and I'm just glad Jack is okay. Because yes, driver error completely. I understand that, and I'm not defending that he made a mistake, but it's accidents like that give one flashbacks of Jules Bianchi and all these big things, and I'm just glad Jack's okay. And besides that, nothing else exciting happened over the weekend besides the track catching fire.
There's a boogeyman under Jack's bed, and his name is Colapinto.
I was about to say the same thing. There
He better
is.
start bucking up, mate, because
Yeah.
Colapinto is
Bro,
waiting.
Did
He
you
better
guys
start bucking
actually?
up. I'm
Did
glad. I'm glad
sorry?
he's okay. I'm just saying
yeah.
he needs to start bucking up.
Mm, did you
Yeah.
guys actually
Anyways,
see
next.
this before the weekend in Japan? There's pictures of Colapinto caught in an older Alpine car testing at Monza. So it's already in the
I did
works.
see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and
Yeah.
there's leaked pictures of Colapinto in I think it's a 2023 Alpine, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, in any case, now the
Mm-mm-mm.
donkey of the weekend. Who was your worst performing driver or team? Graham.
Flipping everyone felt like nobody. Nah. Okay. This is gonna be so sad because I think it's probably the third time in a row, right? But I have to go Lawson. The thing is,
Yeah.
bro, like he didn't do too bad in qualifying. He beat Yuki in qualifying, fair enough. But when your teammate is 7th and then finishes 8th, and then you finish 17th after starting 14th, yeah, I think that's a
Yeah.
little bit rough. I'm sorry, like you guys know, I'm a Lawson fanboy, as I was a Daniel fanboy. I love Lawson. I hate doing this, but I can't be stupid about it either. It's quite
Yeah.
clear that right now he's worse than Stroll. Although Stroll had a pretty bad week. Like, to be fair, I could easily say
Like
Stroll for the
bad.
weekend,
Like
like
bad.
like bad weekend.
And I had him
Like at least
and I
yeah,
had him on my fantasy team.
I'm so impressed that you had him in your fantasy team. That's actually quite wild. But the point is that at least
Never.
he's been scoring points, unlike Lawson. So you can say that he's currently worse than Stroll at this point. So, anyways,
BT, your donkey of the week.
Yeah, mine is simple. No, dude. Mine is simple, Norris. Trying to save your race by blaming Max on something. Nah, it doesn't work like that. So Norris, bro.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Okay.
I don't care.
Um.
He
Okay.
said he
My.
yeah.
said he said last year he said it's my year next year, it's my year. Yeah. Max you're 1 point ahead of Max. Just
Yep.
saying.
Just
You're one
one.
point away from Max.
Yes, man.
Just
In
saying.
a car that's probably the third or fourth best car.
Yeah.
Mm.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Okay. My
Anyways.
donkey of the weekend, and you guys already spoiled it, but it's Lance Stroll, man. What was he
I know he had a
doing?
terrible week. Yes, he had a terrible week.
Yeah,
From the
man.
He's
start that
back,
he's had
bro.
this weekend was
He-
terrible.
He's back.
Lance Stroll is back.
Yeah.
Maybe you
No,
know what?
man.
You know what? What if Lance Stroll and Alonso swapped seats for the first two races and now they swapped back again? Because that would make sense, right? Because the first two races Alonso was pretty dismal.
Bro, at this stage, anything is possible between these two, but bloody hell, he was the definition of useless this weekend. In any case, now,
Yeah.
Stallion of the weekend, and I'm going to start with this one. My Stallion of the weekend, without a shadow of a doubt, is actually, and Graham, you're not going to believe me, Max Verstappen. That qualifying performance,
I
that qualifying performance with how he managed those two McLarens was exceptional. And and again, I don't like him just like you don't like George Russell. I don't like Verstappen, but I can't deny that he is one of the best of all time, and he showed why he is an already four-time world champion. And if there's any driver on this grid that can take a third to fourth fastest car and still win a championship, it's Verstappen, and he proved it this weekend. I was
Mhm.
so impressed with Max this weekend. So for once, I didn't cringe when hearing
and
the
I think
Dutch national anthem because he
mm,
deserved it. He drove exceptionally.
and I think and I also think that to add to what you were saying now, I also think that if you consider the haters that was always saying Max can only win in the best car, now they're seeing.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're starting to see that he genuinely, like, you can't yeah, the people that are, and you still get people that hate on him, and it bugs me so much, man, because I just don't see what are they watching. But anyways,
Yeah.
I guess it's one of those things. But for me, look, to be honest, I would have never not believed you. I mean, to be honest, I think if all three of us should have said Max, to be honest, but we're not that kind of boring podcast. Just cheeky little plug. We're not a boring podcast. We're a fun podcast. So now I was going to go for Max, but now that Dirk went for Max, I'm going to go for somebody else. And then that because I went for somebody else, BT will go for somebody else. And I'm going to probably, to be honest, I think Dirk and I are probably going to take the only two people that probably deserve this, but I'm going to go for Hajar, I guess. I could have gone for Yuki because he technically got driver of the day. But I mean, going from 14th to 12 isn't that impressive, to be honest. So, but yeah, I'm gonna go for Hajar. And it's not because of the race itself. It's just because of the weekend, the way he's handled himself, the fashion in which he's absolutely smashed Lawson in this race. I can't go with anybody else. So I'm just gonna go Hajar, and BT, you can go.
Look, I'm gonna go with Sir Charles. Sir Charles was able to keep those Mercedes away from him. The Ferrari is a truck at the moment, a Fiat truck. That's what that's what the Ferrari is at the moment. And his strategy, his pace, everything was on par. So Sir Charles, stellar of the week.
Yeah. We actually
it's actually not a bad shot as well.
Yeah, we didn't talk about Ferrari, but they didn't do anything. But actually, that was a brilliant performance from Charles. The fact that he kept both Mercs behind, and they were definitely faster than the Ferrari this weekend. I feel you there, BT. And then finally, before we say our goodbyes, let's rate the race, and this is going to be quick and very
0.5, mate.
Okay, we've got Graham. BT at 3.
That 0.5 is literally only because there was a race. Otherwise, it would be 0. But 0.5, mate. That was the worst race I've ever watched in my life. No, I'll give it a 1. Look, let's be honest. That radio message for Hamilton was solid, bro. And that little lawnmower cutting from Norris was solid. So I'll give it a 1. That was good entertainment right there. You know what I mean? Because the thing is, because the thing is, right, I woke up at flipping 5 to 6 to watch this race, right? So every time I was about to fall asleep again, then those 2 moments happened that kept me awake. So I've got to at least give it 1 because it kept me awake. You know what I mean?
No, don't forget Albon's moment as well when he's literally shouting at
You know what I said on my TikTok? I don't know if they're gonna cancel me for this. I said Albon was an absolute diva to his engineer, but he is Thai, so it makes sense. I don't know if you get that joke, but you know,
I do.
If you know anything about Thai people.
Yeah.
No, Graham. We're a family-friendly podcast here.
It's fun. I never said anything rude. I was just saying that if you know Thai people, then you'll get it.
Yeah,
you want chicken? You want chicken? You want chicken?
No. Now you're getting right. Now let's.
All right, BT. What was your rating? I think you said a 3. Yo, 3. All right, and then
no reasons. Yeah.
Okay, then my rating for the race is going to be a 2. I also found it very boring, even though I was like, I came from a night shift, stayed awake to watch the race, and only then to go to bed. Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Besides the Norris incident, I fell asleep. It was really that boring. So yeah, I rewatched the race at work last night with my night shift to make sure that I am prepared for the podcast. In any case, ladies and gentlemen,
what a waste of a night shift.
Yeah. In any case, that is where we were going to end it today.
Rather done work, to be honest.
Oh well, there was nothing going on, so I had to do something to keep myself busy. But in any case, ladies and gentlemen, that has been this episode. Unfortunately, BT did not talk about the lovely ladies because they were not shown. Come back for next week's race because I can guarantee you BT will see something. Come back to see with Mr. Christian Horner Jr. Oh, well, we can actually say Mr. Liam Lawson fanboy to see what he has to say next week. And until next week for the Bahrain Grand Prix, have a wonderful time. Cheers.
As well, at least BT got to see you today, Dirk, with your long hair. So he got to see some kind of girls. Anyways, goodbye.
Wow. Wow.
Ay.
Jesus.